Hey, I know a lot of you were waiting for Hannibal Season 3, so here it is. But for those who missed Season 1 and 2, I really suggest you watch them first. You'll find the link in the description. Season 3 begins with Hannibal, who has fled from Baltimore to Paris. He rides his bike to a party where he is stalking a professor named Dr. Fell. There, a man named Anthony approaches him and asks why he's staring at Dr. Fell. Hannibal claims to be a big fan of Dr. Fell's poetry and wants to meet him. Anthony says he used to be Dr. Fell's assistant and doesn't find his poetry that special. He mentions he tried writing poetry himself, but it took him 6 months just to write one line because he finds it so difficult. After the party, as Dr. Fell is heading home, Hannibal greets him outside. When Dr. Fell gets inside his house, he is shocked to find Hannibal already there. Hannibal attacks and kills him, butchering him and cooking his meat in his own home. As he's eating at the dining table, Dr. Fell's wife appears, gets terrified, and Hannibal kills her too. Then we see a flashback of when Hannibal had kidnapped Gideon. He had cut off Gideon's other leg and served it to him as a dish. Gideon told him he was the devil for cutting off his body parts and feeding them to him. Hannibal explains that he prepared the leg with candy apple and thyme to make it delicate. When he serves the dish, Gideon says he has no choice but to eat it. Hannibal smiles, eats the flesh himself, and seems very pleased. Back in the present, Hannibal and his psychiatrist, Bedelia du Moria, are now in Florence, living under the identities of Dr. Fell and his wife. A professor comes to meet them at a party and questions Hannibal, doubting he has any knowledge of medieval Italy since he doesn't seem Italian at all. In response, Hannibal quotes Dante, impressing everyone and proving his extensive knowledge of Europe. Later that night, Hannibal and Bedelia are talking at home. Hannibal says he finds the modern Florence peaceful, as he has killed very few people here. Bedelia points out that he created a job vacancy at the palazzo by killing Dr. Fell, and that he has no ethical concerns because he has become a monster. Hannibal replies that he will perform the job he has been given well. Bedelia asks if he has thought about eating the professor. Hannibal says that killing the professor won't bring him peace. Hearing this, Bedelia goes to take a bath. As she sinks into the water, she sees a vision of herself drowning, which shows that she feels trapped now that she's with Hannibal. We get another flashback. When Bedelia was returning home after an interview, she found Hannibal bathing in her bathroom. She pulled a gun on him and asked what he was doing there. Hannibal said he was hurt that she left him. Bedelia apologized, saying she didn't want to leave, but she had observed dangerous things in him. Hannibal told her that he might be dangerous to everyone else, but not to her. Hearing this, Bedelia lowered the gun and told him she was with him. The story returns to the present. Bedelia goes to a shop to buy something and notices that someone might be watching her, but she ignores it and leaves. Meanwhile, as Hannibal is leaving his class, he runs into Anthony, which surprises him. Anthony asks if he's here working with Dr. Fell. Hannibal lies, saying Dr. Fell is the new professor and just left the class, so Anthony missed him. Hannibal realizes Anthony could be a problem because he knew the real Dr. Fell and could expose him. Hannibal invites him over for dinner, and Anthony agrees. Another flashback shows Hannibal cutting off Gideon's arm and placing snails on it to make the flesh more delicious. Gideon asked why he was doing this, and Hannibal replied that he wanted to make him tastier. Gideon then said he wished someone would eat him so he could know what it feels like. Hannibal laughs and says he has kept him alive for company. In the present, Anthony arrives at Hannibal's home for dinner. Bedelia asks him how well he knew Dr. Fell. Anthony says he knew them very well and that his wife, Lydia, is a wonderful woman. Later, Hannibal asks Anthony if he came here alone, and Anthony says yes. This frightens Bedelia, as she knows Hannibal will kill him. Anthony asks her why she isn't eating the meat, and she replies that her husband gave her oysters to eat. Anthony mentions that ancient Romans used to feed their animals specific foods to make them taste better. This terrifies Bedelia, and she looks at Hannibal, who just smiles. She tells Anthony that her husband's food is very strange because he likes to eat very different things. After dinner, Hannibal sees Anthony off. Bedelia is shocked and asks Hannibal why he let him go. Hannibal says nothing and walks away. The next morning, Bedelia goes back to the shop and sees someone watching her on the CCTV. We see a flashback revealing that Bedelia had killed her own patient. The patient had attacked her, and she killed him in self-defense. Hannibal had shown up and told her it didn't look like self-defense, and that the police would arrest her if they found out. He told her to trust him and do as he says to escape the situation. Bedelia had told him that if he helped her, she would help him someday. It's because of this promise that she came with Hannibal to help him. In the afternoon, Hannibal is giving a lecture on Lucifer, which Anthony also attends. Hannibal notices that Bedelia is not in her seat and realizes she probably wants to run away, fearing he might kill and eat her. After the lecture, the professor praises Hannibal. Just then, Anthony, who has now figured out that Hannibal is living under Dr. Fell's name, approaches. He tells the professor that he was Dr. Fell's TA and came here to meet him. Hannibal tells Anthony that he shouldn't have found this out because it won't be good for him. Anthony asks if he found Dr. Fell distasteful, and Hannibal says yes. Anthony then offers to help him, suggesting it could be mutually beneficial. Meanwhile, Bedelia is packing her things to run away, but Hannibal arrives with Anthony. Hannibal suddenly attacks Anthony with a vase, injuring him. Bedelia is stunned. Hannibal asks her, "Will you observe or will you participate?" Bedelia replies that she wants to observe this murder. Hearing this, Hannibal breaks Anthony's neck, killing him. He then tells his psychiatrist that she doesn't need to leave now, because they killed Anthony together. Afterward, we see Hannibal on a train with a large box. A flashback shows Hannibal feeding Gideon snails and oysters to improve the taste of his flesh. Gideon had said he was curious to know what it would feel like when someone finally ate him. In the present, Hannibal has a page from a Da Vinci drawing that shows how to fold a human body into a heart shape. Hannibal has done exactly that with Anthony's body, creating a heart, which he places in a church. The second episode starts with the scene where Hannibal had wounded Will. Will is lying on the ground, trying to save Abigail. We then see that Will is in a hospital, still alive. A doctor asks him how he's feeling, and Will says he's thirsty. The doctor gives him water and says someone wants to see him. When Will opens his eyes, he sees Abigail, who is also alive. Abigail tells him that Hannibal wanted to take her with him and wanted Will to come along too. He had made a place for the three of them to live peacefully. She asks Will why he cheated Hannibal. Will tells her he did what he thought was right. Abigail says Hannibal left him alive so he could feel his pain. Will says that everything is over now and he doesn't want to do anything, but Abigail tells him it's not the end for them. Hannibal wants them to find him. The next morning, Will wakes up and hallucinates that he is in Hannibal's office. He sees a floating page from a clock drawing that Hannibal never told him about. As the page burns, he remembers Hannibal telling him he wanted to go to Florence and live in a palace. Will then sees a stag drawn on the floor and he wakes up. From this dream, Will knows that Hannibal is in Florence. The next morning, he takes Abigail, who he is hallucinating, to Florence to find Hannibal. Abigail asks why he's here, and Will says he's looking for answers. She asks if he believes in God. Will says God is just like Hannibal, someone who loves to trouble people. He mentions that Hannibal once said God would enjoy it if the church roof fell on people. In that same church, a priest sees Will, as if he knows about him. The next day, in that church, the police find Anthony's body, shaped like a heart, which Hannibal had placed there. Will arrives with Abigail and is shocked to see it. The priest tells the police he saw Will there, so the police take Will in for questioning. At the police station, Will meets a detective named Puzzy, who is working on the case. Puzzy says he has read about Will and knows he isn't the Chesapeake Ripper, but was framed by him, which means he's important. He also notes that Will just arrived yesterday, and today they found a body, making him a suspect. Will says he was there to pray, not to kill anyone. As Will is leaving, Puzzy stops him. He says he thinks the body appeared because Will is here. Whoever the killer is, they want Will to see the body. Puzzy tells Will, "You're like me," because he believes they are both after the same man who has wounded them. He says he knows Will knows the killer. He met him 20 years ago and named him El Mostro di Firenze, the monster of Florence, after he killed a couple and arranged them among flowers, creating a painting out of their bodies, which is in a book. Will is shocked. Puzzy shows him an old photo of Hannibal Lecter and says this is the man who killed them. Will then thinks about how Hannibal once told him that revelation is a development of an image, blurry at first and then becoming clear. Puzzy says that 20 years ago, he went to an exhibition and saw a young Lithuanian man copying those paintings into his book with a pencil. He says the man's art was brilliant, but when the murders started resembling art, he became suspicious. He has done the same thing now. He killed a man and made a heart because his own heart is broken. Puzzy also says he wants Will to find evidence for them. Will replies that Hannibal doesn't leave evidence. He eats his evidence. Hearing this, Puzzy gives him the case file with photographs and says he thinks Hannibal wants Will to find him. He leaves and Will looks at the photos of the heart Hannibal made. He closes his eyes and tries to imagine how Hannibal did it. He sees Hannibal first skinning the body, then bending it completely into a heart shape. After that, he put the skin back on inside out to hold the body in the bent heart shape. Suddenly, Will sees the heart move and take the form of the devil. This terrifies Will, and he opens his eyes to find Abigail in front of him. She asks if he's okay. Will tells her that Hannibal has placed his broken heart in front of him because he betrayed him. Abigail asks if maybe Hannibal created a different world for them. Will says Hannibal always takes him far away from her. He then sees blood pouring from Abigail's neck, and she suddenly disappears. Will remembers that Abigail is dead and he was just hallucinating her. Hannibal is actually there in the church, charge, watching Will's distress with sadness. Will recalls that Abigail died on the way to the hospital. He was just hallucinating her all this time. Puzzy returns and asks Will if he's praying. Will says Hannibal never prays. Puzzy asks him the question again. Will asks if they should pray to catch Hannibal. He warns Puzzy to stay away from Hannibal, telling him he'll be killed if Hannibal gets his hands on him. Puzzy says he knows he can't catch him, but Will can, and he wants to help. Will asks why he thinks he's here to catch him. Puzzy replies that Hannibal left his heart for Will, which means they must be very close, and Will is the only one who can catch him. Just then, Will hallucinates blood flowing from the church's basement, and he senses Hannibal is nearby. Puzzy asks where he thinks Hannibal went. Will says he didn't go anywhere. He's right here. He goes into the basement to find Hannibal, calling out his name. Puzzy follows with his gun drawn. Hannibal is hiding in the basement, having come to see Will. Will tells Puzzy to leave because it's dangerous. Puzzy says they are both carrying the weight of many dead people and they have to catch this monster. Will insists he leave, so Puzzy goes. Will keeps looking for Hannibal and says, "I know you're here." He tells him that Abigail is dead, so their scores are settled, and now he wants to forgive him. Hearing that Will forgives him, Hannibal is pleased and leaves. Then we see Hannibal at his home right after seeing Will. Hannibal tells his psychiatrist that Will knew exactly where to find him, and that Will was only able to reach him because Hannibal wanted him to. Hearing this, Hannibal concludes that Will has forgiven him. His psychiatrist warns him that forgiveness is a big deal, but it can also involve betrayal, and that both of these things can feel like love. She also tells him that he shouldn't trust Will right now, as she thinks he might pose a threat. When she asks where Will look for him next, Hannibal says, "My home." Then we see Will, who has arrived outside Hannibal's childhood home. He breaks a lock on the gate and goes inside, seeing a large mansion that has been closed for many years. There, Will finds the grave of Hannibal's sister, Misha, to whom Hannibal was very close. Will hallucinates Hannibal conducting a therapy session with him. In the hallucination, Hannibal asks why he came to his home, and Will says he wants to understand his background. Will snaps out of it when he hears a sound from the forest. He looks and sees a woman hunting. This woman is Hannibal's aunt, Chio, who was living there alone. Sensing someone is there, she points her gun at Will, but he hides behind a tree so she can't see him. She shoots a turkey and takes it back to her house to cut it up and cook it. Meanwhile, in Florence, Hannibal has invited a professor to dinner, where he had served him the meat of a man named Anthony Dimond. Hannibal asks the professor why he wants him to leave, and the professor says he's Italian and wants Hannibal to teach something there. Hannibal laughs at this. As he's about to serve food, Hannibal picks up an ice pick and shoves it into the professor's head, paralyzing him. The psychiatrist is terrified. When she asks Hannibal why he did it, she pulls the ice pick out of the professor's head, causing a massive bleed that kills him. Hannibal remarks that she shouldn't have done that, as her actions are what killed the professor. The psychiatrist says that 2 people have now died there, but Hannibal corrects her, saying that technically only 1 person has died. She tells him she knows he's killing people so that the FBI will track him down. We then see Jack, who is in Italy to pray for his wife. In a church, he meets Inspector Puzzy, an old acquaintance. Puzzy tells him that Hannibal is here, committing murders, and asks for Jack's help in catching him. Jack tells him he has quit everything and wants to live a quiet life, refusing to get involved again. Back at the mansion, Will is in the forest and follows a sound to find a large number of fireflies swarming a large, man-like sculpture. Later, Will keeps an eye on Hannibal's aunt. When she leaves the mansion, he goes inside to investigate. There, Will finds a man whom the woman had been keeping captive. The man is extremely weak, as if he hasn't been fed properly. Just then, the woman returns and points her gun at Will, asking who he is and what he's doing. Will tells her he's a friend of Hannibal's and has come seeking answers. He asks why she has imprisoned the man. She reveals that the man had killed and eaten Misha, which is why Hannibal wants her to kill him. Hearing this, Will shows her the wound on his stomach and says Hannibal did it to him. The woman lowers her gun and asks for his story. Meanwhile, Hannibal hosts a couple for dinner, serving them the professor's meat. He describes the dish as lamb's liver, lungs, and heart, saying that eating it feels like being in heaven. They eat it and find it delicious. Hannibal tells them he first created this dish for his sister. His psychiatrist watches the couple with pity, as they have no idea they're enjoying human flesh. The couple remarks that whoever butchered the meat is a perfectionist. Hannibal replies that he prefers to butcher his own meat. Back at the mansion, the woman asks Will if he is just like Hannibal. Will says that if he were, he would have already killed her, cooked her, and eaten her. He asks if she knows where Hannibal is. She asks why he's looking for Hannibal when he attacked him so viciously. Will explains that when he's with Hannibal, he understands himself better, and he wants to meet him to know himself more. Later, Hannibal is giving his psychiatrist a bath. She asks what he was like when he was young, and he says he was very curious. She asks who the first first person he killed and ate was, but Hannibal doesn't answer. She then asks why he doesn't want to return to his home. Hannibal says it's where he was born, and he doesn't want to go back there. His psychiatrist understands that something terrible must have happened there. She tells him she knows the first person he ate was Misha, and asks him to tell her how tasty it was. Hannibal is stunned and leaves. Will goes to the captive, frees him, takes him into the forest, gives him clothes, and tells him to run. Meanwhile, Jack is in the church, praying for his wife, while Puzzy tries to convince him to join the case. But Jack is defeated and says he doesn't want to go through that pain again. The woman at the mansion prepares food for the captive and brings it to him. As she opens the door, he attacks her. He is about to kill her when she gets her hands on a knife and stabs him in the neck, killing him. When Will comes inside, she asks him why he let the man out. Will says he was curious to see if she would be able to kill him or not. Hearing this, she tells him that she will now help him find Hannibal, as there's no reason for her to stay in the house anymore. Will attaches wings to the dead man's back and hangs him in the shape of a firefly moth. He then leaves with the woman to find Hannibal. His psychiatrist asks Hannibal how his sister used to make him feel. Hannibal says she made him feel good because he loved her very much. She then asks if Will makes him feel the same way. Hannibal says yes, Will makes him feel love. His psychiatrist says she knows there's only one way for him to truly forgive Will. Hannibal agrees, saying, "I have to eat him." We find out that Dr. Chilton is still alive. The bullet Miriam shot him with went straight through his cheek, so he survived. Chilton goes to see Mason Verger, wanting to team up to catch and kill Hannibal. He tells Mason that if he shows his face, Mason should show his. Chilton removes his prosthetics, revealing his horribly disfigured face. Mason removes his mask as well, and they look at what Hannibal did to them. Chilton suggests they join forces, but Mason tells him he survived because Hannibal wanted him to survive that way. He could have killed him. Mason tells him to find someone else, as he won't help. We then see Will, remembering that it was Chilton, not Abigail, who visited him in the hospital. Chilton had asked for his help to catch Hannibal, but Will refused, saying he wanted to meet Hannibal himself. He told Chilton to leave Hannibal alone. Will imagines a scenario where Jack was also at the final bloody dinner. He pictures Hannibal signaling him to kill Jack, and he would have obeyed, with the two of them killing Jack together. Jack comes to visit Will and asks why he called Hannibal that day to warn him. Will says he did what he thought was right at the time, but admits it was a mistake. Jack is hurt by this and leaves. Next, we see Alana Bloom, who has multiple broken bones. Chilton visits her, saying what Hannibal did was terrible and that she should want revenge. He convinces her to help him find Hannibal so they can kill him together. Alana agrees, admitting she made a huge mistake by trusting Hannibal and is now ready for revenge. The next day, Alana goes to Hannibal's old office, remembering the attack. She finds Will there and asks what he's doing. He tells her he's there hoping Hannibal will come to meet him and asks her to leave him alone. As Alana leaves, we see that Will is imagining Abigail sitting next to him. A few days later, Alana goes to Mason's mansion. She meets his sister, Margot, who warns her not to accept chocolate from her brother if he offers it, as it's a sign he dislikes someone. Alana meets with Mason, who asks if she's found Jesus. She says she was raised religious but no longer believes in God after what happened to her. Mason says he has forgiven Hannibal, but adds that in the old days, forgiveness was immediately followed by revenge, and he now wants them all to get revenge together. Alana understands he's on board. Meanwhile, Jack remembers surviving his neck wound because he didn't pull out the shard of glass. He's lying next to his wife, Bella, who tells him she's glad he's alive so she won't have to die alone. Chilton meets with Jack, telling him he's losing focus and that he loves the Bureau, but the Bureau doesn't love him back. Jack says he's retired. Chilton argues that they are all alive for a reason. Jack didn't pull out the glass. Will was allowed to survive by Hannibal, and Chilton himself survived his shooting. He insists that Will is the key to finding Hannibal and they should follow him. Jack refuses, saying he just wants to be with his wife. Later, at home, Jack feels that his wife's illness is preventing him from doing his work. He goes to Bella, kisses her hand, and gives her a fatal overdose of her medication. He did this because she was in immense pain, and he wanted to set her free. Alana visits Jack to offer her condolences. Jack looks at one of Bella's dresses and cries, remembering their wedding day. He had also buried her in that same dress. Inside Bella's coffin, Jack finds a letter from Hannibal, expressing his sorrow for Bella's passing. Jack becomes enraged. Just then, Will arrives to pay his respects. Jack tells Will he knew this was coming, hands him Hannibal's letter, and walks away. Meanwhile, Mason's facial reconstruction is going well. He tells his nurse, Cordell, that he wants him to capture Dr. Lecter so he can feed him alive to his pigs. Cordell assures him it will be done. Alana meets with Mason again. She tells him that Hannibal can change his name and identity, but he can never change his tastes. Wherever he goes, he will kill and eat people, and that's how they can find him. Mason, still not fully believing she's on their side, asks for her plan. Alana says she has envisioned Hannibal's death. At night, Jack comes to meet Will, but instead finds Alana at his house. He asks her where Will is, and Alana tells him that he's already left. She says Will knows exactly what he needs to do, and that Jack should also think about himself and figure out what he needs to do. Jack doesn't say anything in response, which shows that something is definitely going on in his mind. Meanwhile, Will rents a boat and heads out towards the ocean. Then Will and the girl, Chio, are on their way to find Hannibal. Will asks her how she fell into Hannibal's trap. She tells him that he used to be as charming as a mongoose. Hearing this, Will tells her that the mongoose has now become a big cat that she can't play with because it's dangerous. The girl explains that when she first met Hannibal, she was an orphan. She was supposed to meet him with his sister, but by then, his sister had already died. She also tells Will that she was an attendant to Hannibal's aunt. Her parents had sent her there to learn things. But when Hannibal arrived, he began to teach her things and became her mentor. The girl asks Will how he knows Hannibal is in Florence. Will shows her the painting that Hannibal used to draw often and says that because of it, he believes Hannibal is in Italy. Meanwhile, Hannibal is with his psychiatrist, Bedelia, and he feeds her snails. His psychiatrist tells him that snails take on the nature of those who eat them and that fireflies have a very brief life. Hannibal tells her that life can be good if you are true to it. His psychiatrist tells him that she doesn't think Will Graham will ever leave him alone. Hannibal says that he has trained Will, and his mind will always be confused about whether to kill him or not. The next morning, Jack Crawford arrives in Italy because it's where he first met his wife. He scatters the ashes from his wife's grave into the river there and throws her ring into the same river. Afterward, he goes to Inspector Puzzy's house to meet him and his wife. Puzzy's wife asks him why he threw away his wedding ring. Jack tells her that he is a widower now, which is why he threw the ring away. When Puzzy's wife leaves, Puzzy tells Jack that several people have gone missing there, and he thinks it's the work of Hannibal Lecter. So, he plans to give information on Hannibal Lecter to a company that will pay him for it. This company belongs to Mason Verger, who would put a reward on Hannibal Lecter. Jack tells Puzzy to first find out for sure if it is Hannibal. Puzzy tells him that he will only send the information after he is completely sure. Meanwhile, Alana Bloom brings a dining table that belonged to Hannibal to Mason Verger. She describes all the items there that Hannibal used. There was also a wine that is only found in Italy. Mason Verger asks her what all of this means. Alana explains that this wine and bread are only available in Italy, and the same amount of wine and bread is bought every week from a shop by a blonde lady, the bill for which she has received. She thinks this lady buys it for Hannibal. Hearing this, Verger understands that Hannibal is in Italy. Later that night, as Will is lying on the train, the girl asks him if he hears voices. Will tells her that he hears voices from all around and that he also sees a completely black deer. The girl asks him if the deer is a symbol of what he is becoming. Will says he doesn't want to become anything. Hearing this, the girl tells him that if he doesn't kill Hannibal, he will become just like him. The next morning, Inspector Puzzy goes to Dr. Fell to question him. When Dr. Fell turns around, Puzzy is shocked to see him because he recognizes his face and knows that he is Hannibal. He asks Hannibal about the missing people, and Hannibal says he doesn't know anything about them. They just came to his lectures, and he knows nothing more. Puzzy tells him to contact him if he finds out anything about them. As Puzzy is leaving, Hannibal stops him and asks if he belongs to the Puzzy family. Puzzy says yes, he does. After saying this, Puzzy leaves, and Hannibal stares at him. That night, while Puzzy is searching about Hannibal, he sees Mason Verger's ad offering a huge reward for Hannibal. Anyone who provides information on him would receive a large sum of money. Seeing this, Puzzy's mind wavers, and he thinks that if he had that much money, he could live the rest of his life well. The next morning, he calls Verger's office and tells them he has information about Hannibal Lecter. They ask if he knows where Hannibal is, and he tells them he is in Florence. They give him a number and tell him to call it and give all the information he has. That night, as Hannibal is playing the piano, his psychiatrist comes and asks him if he knows Puzzy. Hannibal tells her that he met Puzzy when he was a teenager. They met in a gallery where he was painting. His psychiatrist asks if Puzzy would remember that he is Hannibal. Hannibal says that when he went near Puzzy and smelled him, he realized that he knew him. His psychiatrist tells him that someone has put a reward on his head. Hannibal says he knows who put the reward. His psychiatrist asks if he will kill Puzzy like the professor. Hannibal tells her that if Puzzy gives his information to that company, he will kill him with honor. Back on the train, Will asks the girl why she is looking for Hannibal. The girl tells him that she is not looking for Hannibal because she knows very well where he is. Will asks her if he is in Florence, and the girl says yes. Hearing this, Will asks her why she didn't tell him sooner if she knew. The girl says she was afraid that he might get influenced by Hannibal. After saying this, she kisses him and pushes him off the train. Will falls onto the train tracks and gets injured. Somehow, Will musters the strength to get up and leaves. The next day, Puzzy calls the number and speaks to Verger. Verger tells him that Hannibal is a monster who must be caught. He has given him half the money in advance for the information on Hannibal. If Puzzy can bring them Hannibal's fingerprint, it will confirm his identity, and then they will give him the full amount. Hearing this, Puzzy says he will try to get his fingerprints. A little later, Puzzy goes to Hannibal to show him an antique from his ancestors because Hannibal was very interested in antiques. He sees that Hannibal has a knife that he is using to cut an apple, and his fingerprints are on it. When he shows Hannibal his item, Hannibal places the knife on the table and asks if he can touch the item. Puzzy allows it, and Hannibal is very happy to see it. He tells Puzzy that he also has an antique that he wants to show him. He shows him a sculpture of Puzzy's ancestor, in which many years ago, Puzzy was hanged in front of the palazzo, and his stomach was cut open with his intestines spilling out. When Hannibal turns around, Puzzy tries to steal the knife, but Hannibal attacks him and knocks him unconscious. Meanwhile, Puzzy's wife tells Jack that she is worried about him because he should have been home by now. Hearing this, Jack thinks that Hannibal might kill Puzzy, so he leaves to go to him. Hannibal had tied Puzzy up and was about to hang him in the exact same way his ancestor had died. He asks Puzzy if Mason Verger put the reward on him, and Puzzy says yes. Just then, Puzzy's phone rings, and Hannibal answers it. On the other side is Alana, who asks Puzzy if he has collected the evidence. Hearing this, Hannibal tells Alana that it was very nice to hear her voice, but he is about to kill Puzzy right now, so he is in a hurry. He hangs up the phone, cuts Puzzy's stomach, and hangs him down, causing his intestines to fall out and him to die by hanging. Just then, Jack arrives and sees Hannibal committing the murder. Seeing him, Hannibal wants to run away, but he realizes that Jack is already there. He apologizes to Jack about Bella and asks him to let him go. Just then, Jack attacks him from behind and beats him brutally. He shoves a hook into Hannibal's leg, breaking his leg, and punches him in the face, causing him to bleed. After that, he breaks Hannibal's hand. Hannibal tells him to let him go because he brought his wife back. Hearing this, Jack beats him even more, leaving Hannibal half dead. Hannibal asks him how he feels after beating him. Jack says that now he feels alive. Jack tries to throw Hannibal out of the window to kill him, but Hannibal hangs onto Puzzy's body, jumps down, saves his life, and escapes. Then we see Hannibal, in an injured state, going to his home. His psychiatrist bathes him and treats his wounds. Meanwhile, the police find Puzzy's body and begin their investigation. Just then, Will arrives there and meets Jack, and they both go off in search of Hannibal. Jack tells Will that he beat Hannibal badly and that he was injured. He was worried that he might kill him. Hearing this, Will tells him that Hannibal isn't worried about anything. When he's in danger, he thinks about escaping. Jack tells Will that Puzzy knew it was Hannibal, but he didn't go to the police because he wanted the reward, and Hannibal knew this well, which is why he killed him. Will asks Jack if he has told the police that he is not Dr. Fell but Hannibal. Jack says that the police think he is Dr. Fell. Jack asks Will if Hannibal comes before him, will he go with him? Will says that half of his heart would want to go with him, but he would kill him because he is a monster. Meanwhile, Hannibal and his psychiatrist have fled to another place. His psychiatrist asks him now that the police are after him. Hannibal says that he will always miss Florence. His psychiatrist has packed a bag for him and tells him to leave her alone and go from there because when the police come to question her, she will be caught. Hannibal tells her that he doesn't want to say goodbye to her like this. So his psychiatrist comes to him and says that she knows how he wants to say goodbye. He wants to kill her and eat her meat, but right now her meat is not tender enough for him to eat. So why doesn't he leave from here, and the next time they meet, he can kill and eat her? Hearing this, Hannibal kisses her and leaves. Meanwhile, Verger's servant, Cordell, is feeding him pigtails because they could make his facial muscles much stronger. When Verger eats it, he finds the taste very strange. He asks Cordell what kind of meat it is. Cordell tells him that it is the meat of a human finger and he is feeding it to him so that he can kill and eat Hannibal. Verger tells him that he wants that when he gets his hands on Hannibal, he will roast him, marinate him in honey, serve him on a table, and then he will cut a piece of his body and eat it. Just then, Verger sees the news, which is reporting Puzzy's death. Seeing this, he realizes that he was investigating Hannibal Lecter. He tells his sister why not bribe the Italian police so that they catch Hannibal and bring him to them. Hearing this, his sister says that it would be a good idea, and she bribes some policemen, and they set out to find Hannibal. After Hannibal leaves leaves, his psychiatrist is taking drugs. Just then, the girl comes there looking for Hannibal and asks his psychiatrist where Hannibal is. Hearing this, Bedelia asks the girl who she is. The girl tells her that she is Hannibal's family. Bedelia tells her that Hannibal has left. The girl tells Bedelia that they are all Hannibal's birds, whom he always keeps captive and makes them do whatever he wants. Hearing this, Bedelia asks her what she wants. The girl says that she used to think Will Graham was Hannibal's biggest mistake, but today she found out that she is also his mistake. Saying this, she leaves, and Bedelia takes drugs. Just then, her doorbell rings, and at the door are Will and Jack, who have come to question her. Jack asks her where Hannibal is, and she tells them that she doesn't know Hannibal. Hearing this, Will asks her why she is so confused. She tells them that her name is Mrs. Fell, and she doesn't know anything. Jack tells Bedelia that the police will be here any moment to question her. Bedelia tells him that they think her husband committed all the murders, but she will tell them that her husband did nothing. Hearing this, Jack tells her that whoever put the reward on Hannibal has also bought the police who are coming to question her. Just then, Jack sees that Will has left, and he is very surprised. Meanwhile, when Margot comes to meet Mason, Mason calls her over. He tells Margot that she should not have thought about having a child because he wanted them to have children together to give their family an heir. Hearing this, Margot tells him that he has removed her ovaries, so she can't have children anymore. Hannibal is in the same gallery where he was making his drawing. Just then, Will arrives because he knew that Hannibal would meet him there. He sits next to Hannibal, and Hannibal is very happy to see him. Hannibal asks him how he got here. Will tells him that he was trying to understand him before his eyes closed. He wanted to see what he really is, and he found out that he is a devil. Will tells him that he went to his house and met Chio. Hannibal asks him how Chio is. Will tells him that Chio is very protective of him because she pushed him off the train so that he could die. Will tells him that when he commits murders, it feels like he committed those murders himself because they are both very connected and they think in the same way. Afterward, when they both come out of there, we see Chio, who was sitting on the roof sniping. She sees that Will is pulling a knife out of his pocket to kill Hannibal, so she shoots Will in the shoulder, which saves Hannibal's life. Meanwhile, we see Alana and Margot, who had now become lesbians. After being intimate, Alana tells Margot that Mason has not told the FBI anything about Hannibal. Margot tells her that she knows that Mason will be in jail soon, because the FBI will definitely find out what he is going to do with Hannibal. Meanwhile, the police are questioning Bedelia and Jack, where Jack tells them that the man they are looking for is Hannibal Lecter. Hearing this, the inspector lets him go from there and questions Bedelia. Hannibal brings Will to his house and tells him that Chio is very protective of him, and she cannot see him die. He treats Will's wound and tells him that now he cannot forgive him at all. He gives Will an injection that paralyzes him and feeds Will a soup he made with his own hands so that he can recover. Hannibal tells him that he wanted to show him around Florence, but he made a big mistake by attacking him. Just then, we see Jack, who had arrived in the building because Bedelia had given him the address. When Jack gets into the elevator, Chio also comes there. He sees Chio and realizes that there is definitely something wrong. And Chio also sees the gun in his pocket, so she realizes that he is probably going to meet Hannibal. When they both reach the floor, Chio tells him that she has come to the wrong floor, and using this excuse, she goes down. When Jack arrives there, he sees Will tied up. When he goes to untie Will tells him that Hannibal is under the table. Just then, Hannibal attacks Jack's leg from under the table and knocks him out. Meanwhile, the inspector is questioning Bedelia. He shows her a photo of the real Dr. Fell and Mrs. Fell and asks her why her husband and she are living with a fake identity. Bedelia tells him that she is Mrs. Fell. The inspector tells her that if she tells the truth, he will let her go, but if she lies, she will have to rot in jail for the rest of her life. Hearing this, Bedelia tells him the truth, and the inspector goes with his team to catch Hannibal. Hannibal had also paralyzed Jack and sat him down. Hannibal tells Jack that he has put something in his body so that he cannot move his body at all. He should just watch what he is doing with Will. Hannibal tells both of them that now he has the opportunity to kill and eat them both. Saying this, Hannibal takes out a blade machine, and Jack tells Hannibal not to do that at all. Just then, Hannibal places the machine on Will's head to open his head, which starts cutting Will's head, and a lot of his blood starts to come out. Seeing this, Jack screams loudly and tells Hannibal not to do it, but Hannibal doesn't listen to him and keeps cutting Will's head. Then the scene cuts, and we see Will and Hannibal hanging with pigs. Just then, Verger comes in front of them and says, "Welcome to my farm." We see how Will and Hannibal ended up at the Verger farm. Just as Hannibal is about to cut off Will's head, the police show up. They pointed their guns at Hannibal and arrested him, saving Will's life. Jack told the inspector to take Hannibal away, but the inspector said they'd be taking both Hannibal and Will, as Mason Verger wanted them both. The inspector takes them and orders his 2 men to kill Jack. As they move in on Jack, Chio shoots and kills both men from a nearby building. She approaches Jack and asks who he is. Jack explains he's a special agent who came to arrest Hannibal. Chio asks if he knows where they took them. Jack replies that if she removes the 4 needle from his body, he'll tell her everything. Chio removes it, and Jack reveals they've been taken to the Verger farm in America. Chio leaves a gun with Jack and heads out. The next morning, Margot and Alana are spending time together. Margot tells Alana that her brother has captured Hannibal and will and plans to kill them soon. Alana remarks that her brother is also evil because he'll kill them slowly, which will give them time to figure out what to do with Verger. Meanwhile, Verger welcomes Hannibal and Will to his farm, telling them they're about to have a lot of fun. Hannibal comments that the men Verger hired were useless, as they almost killed him. Verger approaches with his father's knife, which he uses to measure the fat on pigs. He sticks the knife into Hannibal's skin to check his depth and says he's too thin. They'll have to fatten him up to make his meat more delicious. They take Hannibal and Will to the farm's pig pen, where they plan to cage them just like the pigs. Mason then calls Alana and tells her he thinks Jack is dead, as his men wouldn't have left him alive. Just then, Margot arrives and informs them that there's activity at the FBI and Jack is still alive. Hearing this, Mason asks Alana if she told anyone about their conversations. Alana assures him that their discussions have remained private. Mason complains that the FBI won't believe he was kidnapped because Jack had previously filed a harassment complaint against him in Italy, a claim Mason can't disprove. Alana tells Mason to kill Hannibal quickly, as she doesn't want Hannibal to play games with him. Mason promises to torture Hannibal before killing him. Alana warns him to be careful, as Hannibal is very cunning. That night, Mason brings Hannibal and Will to the dining table for dinner. He explains he's going to kill and eat Hannibal, and he's keeping Will so that his surgeon, Cordell, can transplant Will's face onto his own. He adds that they remind him of a German cannibal who advertised for a suicide victim, then killed and ate the man who responded, even feeding the victim his own flesh. Will asks if he wants to eat Hannibal's meat while wearing his face. Verger says yes, because it will make Hannibal's taste even more delicious. Hannibal then asks Mason how he'll be cooked. Cordell explains he will first cut off his arms and legs and barbecue them to serve to Mason. Hannibal laughs, saying he'll be quite tasty. When Cordell goes to serve Will bites his cheek off, enraging him. Later, Cordell takes Hannibal to the pig pen and brands him with a hot iron, just like all the other pigs. He tells Hannibal that Mason has been good to these pigs, and now it's his turn to be a very special pig. He adds that the more respectful he is, the longer his life will be. Hannibal asks what he'll do if he speaks. Cordell replies that he'll cut out his tongue and eat it fried. Elsewhere, Margot meets with Mason, who tells her he wants them to have a child. Margot reminds him he had her ovaries removed, so she can't have children. Mason reveals he had her ovaries transplanted into a surrogate and used his sperm to impregnate her so they could have a child. Emotional, Margot asks if she can meet the woman. Mason says not yet, but he will arrange a meeting soon. While Will is alone at the dining table, Alana comes to see him. Will asks if she was helping Mason. Alana explains she was only helping to capture Hannibal and didn't know Mason would capture him too. Will warns her that after Verger kills Hannibal, he'll kill all of them, and if they want to survive, they must release Hannibal. Alana understands it's necessary to free him. At the pig farm, Hannibal is tied up like a pig. Margot comes to see him, and Hannibal asks if her brother is treating her well now. Margot says no and tells him about the surrogate Mason hired to carry the Verger baby. Hannibal says Mason will deny the child, as he always has and probably won't accept him. He tells her she has to kill Mason because he'll be a threat to her in the future. Margot asks if he would kill Mason for her. Hannibal replies that she must be the one to kill Mason. Just then, Alana arrives and kills Mason's guard. She tells Hannibal she wanted to save Will, and in this situation, he's the only one who can. She says she is setting him free and makes him promise to keep Will alive. Hannibal promises he will and tells her to untie one of his hands so he can free himself. Alana approaches and tells him not to break his promise before untying one hand. Hannibal then frees himself. Meanwhile, Will is about to undergo surgery to have his face transplanted onto Verger. Cordell gives Verger an injection to knock him out so that when he wakes up, he'll have a new face. Cordell then goes to Will and asks if he believes in God. Will says he has complete faith in his God. Cordell injects Will with a drug that will paralyze him but also heighten his sense of pain, so he will feel everything when his face is cut off. Just then, Hannibal, having killed all of Mason's men, arrives at the operating theater and saves Will's life. When Margot and Alana return to their room, they find a pig on their bed with Margot's baby inside its belly. They realize Mason used a pig as a surrogate. Margot is devastated and asks Alana to cut the baby out of the pig's stomach. Alana does, but the baby is already dead. Margot breaks down, heartbroken heartbroken by what her brother has done. When Mason regains consciousness, he sees another face on his own. He calls for Cordell and, looking in the mirror, realizes it's Cordell's face. Hannibal, injured, carries Will back to his home, with Chio protecting them like a shadow. Alana goes to Mason and he asks where Hannibal and Will are. Alana informs him that Hannibal killed Cordell and has left with Will. Margot then enters and tells Mason she has found his surrogate. Mason laughs, saying she can't kill him because if he dies, all his property will go to the church, and she doesn't have a child to inherit it. Margot reveals she will have a child and will inherit everything, because Hannibal helped them by taking his sperm, which they can use to have children. Enraged, Mason tries to shoot them, but they attack him and throw him into a water tank, where an eel enters his mouth and kills him. The next morning, Chio comes to see Hannibal. He asks if she will go back home. She says there's no one left at home, so she won't go back. Hannibal asks if she will continue to protect him as she always has, and she says yes. Chio leaves and Hannibal goes to Will. He asks if the teacup in his mind has been put back together. Will says the teacup is still broken, and he doesn't want to fix it. He tells Hannibal he doesn't want to think about him anymore and will never cross his path again. He won't miss him or look for him, and he tells him to leave because he doesn't want to see his face. Heartbroken, Hannibal gets up and leaves. That night, Jack arrives at Will's house with the FBI, knowing Hannibal would be there. Will tells Jack that Hannibal has left, but just then, Hannibal emerges from behind the house and surrenders. He tells Jack, "You've caught me." Jack replies, "I didn't catch you. You surrendered." Jack arrests Hannibal. And actually, I also want your suggestion. Which TV shows recap would you all like to see here? Whichever series gets the most comments, I'll definitely do a recap for that one.